Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at tv5wrestling.com.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
It is good to say this. Hey everybody, Talking Memphis Wrestling is live. We are live on January the 6th and we're on the air, and the most important thing going on today, people, is we're back. I am thrilled to death, tickled to death, and it's thrilling to see people like PJ in the house from Thailand is here, Dennis Mitchell, Frank Seaton from the other side of Arkansas, my best friend from another, my brother from another mother, Randy West, Calvin Lindsay Jr., who about had a nervous breakdown that we were off. He couldn't get in his head, and even though I advertised it everywhere, we were off for 2 weeks. But Drew, every Tuesday night, would say, no show. It's like he goes to sleep at night and then forgets the fact we're not doing a show. James is here, Greg is here, Thomas is here, a bunch of people in the house, and we appreciate it. On the very first Talking Memphis Wrestling show of the year, and I knew, hello Brenda, what's going on? And Richard Hood is in the house as well, and we appreciate that very well. Tickled to death to have the show going on, and this show today will be Dr. Rusty Robinson, and it will be Michael St. John, but we'll tell you, wanted the first one to be a bang. We got great talk, great conversation, great photos of the week, and great video as we spotlight on Sam Bass and Jerry Lawler. It will be tremendous. Have background information. My idea on the first take is always do the first person in is the first person on. So we'll go right now to where he is now. He's not in Orange Beach. He is in New Orleans, Louisiana. Since we've seen him on the air, since I've shook things up, and the main thing is he had eye surgery on us, and he will appear patchless unless he changed his mind in the last 30 seconds. It's good to have on here. He's recovering. Again, he drove to New Orleans from Orange Beach. Glad to have back on this show, on this special, as we pay tribute, easy for me to say, to Sam Bass. And here's Dr. Rusty Robinson for a quick first take. Hey, Rusty.
Hello, Randy. Good to see everybody again. Been a while. And Happy New Year to everybody, to Randy and Adam and everybody in the chat. I'm glad to be back. We had a great holiday season, even though I did, in fact, kind of suffer through having eye surgery. And I'm still not completely over it. In fact, this is the first night that I have not worn my eye patch over my left eye. So if you ever see me during the chat doing this, that means I can't see something very well, and I'm trying to use my right eye. But it's getting better. Every day it's getting better. I'm guessing in another 2 weeks, I'll probably be, basically back to normal. So it's been a hectic time or unpleasant time, but at the same time, we've had a great time over the holidays. We went to some of our old stomping grounds. I was in Memphis, in Nashville, seeing relatives. I was in Alabama seeing some friends. So I'm glad to be, back home, my two homes, basically in Orange Beach and New Orleans. So I'm glad to be here.
That is great. We appreciate it very much, and looking forward to you talking about Sam Bass and joining the conversation on that. Now we're going to leave Louisiana. We are going to go to Arab, Alabama. We are going to bring in the founder, the owner, the president, the big boss, the man that is a radio Hall of Famer. He joined the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2024. So much going on in the holidays, and we took 2 weeks off, and I was hoping, because Michael's been off work a couple of weeks and had a lot of catch up to do today, and I was hoping he was going to be able to be on this show today, and he is. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Rusty's friends, Pat's friend, Adam's friend. By the way, I didn't plug Adam. Our great producer is in the house. He may pop in with some conversation later, or maybe not. I always hope he does. But we're going to bring into the show right now our OG. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Michael Sant freaking John.
You know, every time you introduce me, I have to look around the room to see if anybody's walking in. I really do. Doc, it's great to see you. I hope you can see me better, because I'm sure it will ruin your eyesight, my huge nose and everything else. But hi, everybody. Randy, great to be back with you. Hope you're having a happy new year. And of course, Adam, we got to talk over the holidays, and it's always great having Adam produce this show. And thank you for the opportunity again to join you in a brand new year. It's a very eventful time of the year. And again, I appreciate all the nice words you said. First take, if I may, I would like to send out a condolence, something that, Randy, you're very aware of, and I know Adam is aware of, and Pat's aware of. Doc, I don't know if you knew this or not, but the gentleman that sat to my left for 28 years in the press box at Arab High School and all the schools we played, it was part of our Fun Radio Funhouse morning show. A gentleman that went to the Kentucky Derby AT&T morning line with us the past 3 years, always had a funny joke, was one of these people that lit up the room. He was also a retired Huntsville police officer, the first DARE officer in the state of Alabama that trained all the DARE officers. He was a county commissioner, a retired city council member here in the city of Arab, and was currently on the Marshall County Commission. Ronnie Shoemate died in over a 22-day battle with pancreatic cancer. He had the absolute worst ever that the doctors at UAB in Birmingham had seen. He had a tumor the size of a softball that encapsulated his pancreas. And in 22 days from the time it was discovered until the time he passed on December 29th, he passed. I had an opportunity the Monday before Christmas. I was asked by his son, because Ronnie had asked me to come to the intensive care unit at UAB Hospital. I had the honor of spending an hour and 15 minutes trying to get his spirits up. But we all knew that we were on a street that was going to end up in heaven, and it did. So a very big loss for our company, a very big personal loss for me. You hear people say he was like a brother. He was more than that. He was a generational friend, and somebody, I have a ton of acquaintances, but I can count my friends on one hand, and they include Randy Hales and Pat Trammell and of course Adam and Doc. But lost a big member of the society of the government of people. He was always one of these guys that had a story, always one of these things that, you never knew what he was going to say or how he was going to say it. All you knew is that you were going to laugh. He used to joke, we'd go together to someone's funeral, and he would say, I love the fact that your radio is fun radio. He says, you put the fun in funeral. Well, for the first time since I've owned Fun Radio, there was a funeral that wasn't any fun. But I wanted to let everybody know that anybody that ever knew of or heard about Ronnie Shoemate, he will be missed. Thank you.
Ronnie will be missed For sure, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. And on behalf of the Talking Memphis Wrestling family, certainly simply out. Now, certainly, we're going to, it's hard to I was thinking the whole time, as Adam goes ahead and finds that picture, and our hotshot producer always comes through for us.
Great job, Randy. Great job, Adam. Thank you. That's Ronnie. And he always said, try this. It'll make your babies be born naked. That was when he wanted you to try something to eat or drink. That was always his catchphrase. Can I tell one Ronnie Shoemate story that's just a funny story?
Absolutely. And hey, Bo James, we appreciate you watching Talking Memphis Wrestling today. And we'll get with the wrestling in just a minute, but here's a story from Michael St. John because it's very interesting for all of us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. This is it's typical. This is a typical Ronnie Shoemate, retired police officer. Man, they were incredible, just incredible. He was the classiest of the class. I take him to the AT&T morning line. There are 22 radio stations in Louisville, Kentucky that get together the week of Kentucky Derby, and we broadcast live for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. And took him as my sidekick. I'd asked him for years to go. 3 years ago, he'd finally retired from the police department. He said, I think I'm going to go this year. So he goes. On the evening of Monday night, after all the first day is over, they feast us to a wonderful meal at a hot restaurant. It's always one of the up-and-coming restaurants that you'll talk about. So we go to this restaurant in Butchertown, and they have tables laid out for each of the stations for all 22 of us. And at this particular event, the restaurant was serving mint juleps, which is the drink of the Derby, and they had these little silver goblets of Derby. They call them Derby goblets, I guess is a good way to put it. Mint julep cup is what they're called. And so they're a little cup, and they're a little guy, and they're decorated. It's real so anyway, there were two of them on our table. And at the end of the evening, I asked our hostess, Linda McGinney, was former president of the Kentucky Derby Festival, was our hostess. And I said, I wonder if they would let us take one of these home. I said, I'd love to take my wife this little goblet. Well, there were two of them there. One was very silvery and had some jewelry kind of stuff on it. And the other one was more simple. And she said, well, let me ask. She went over and got the woman from the restaurant. She said, yeah, you can take that one. And it was in front of me. So I took it. So we get up to leave, and Ronnie says, you know what? I'm going to take Denise one. I'm going to take Denise this one too. So he picks it up, takes it with us. So it had 3 roses in it. Mine had 3 roses in it. So I took it back to the room at the Galt House and put it up in the room. And as we're going to the room, there was a teachers convention going on. And so Ronnie stops, and there are these 3 ladies there, and he says, you guys are teachers. He said, I want to give you each a rose. Says, you guys do a great job for education. Really appreciate it. And I forget where they were from. They were from Indiana or Pennsylvania or somewhere. So he takes the cup, and he takes it upstairs, and he puts it up in his, well, the next day we pack up before we leave to do the morning show, because after the morning show, we're driving back. And we're interviewing the Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky, Jacqueline Coleman. And I'm talking to her. Ronnie's across the hall or across the table from me, and we're getting in the middle of the conversation. And all of a sudden, Linda, the hostess for us, comes running up and says, I need to see you right now. And she pokes her finger on Ronnie's shoulder. And he goes, oh, okay. So he gets up and leaves. Well, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I continued talking to the lieutenant governor, finishes the interview, get another guest, interview that guest, still no Ronnie. So after about 30 minutes, he comes back and he says, I need your car keys. What? He says, yeah, I need to get something. Okay. So I give him my car keys. He disappears for another 10 minutes, comes back up. We get a break. And I said, what the hell's going on? The mint julep cup that he took was one of a 4 set that was an heirloom. That was a woman's it was the lady that owned the restaurant's grandmother's. It was made in the 30s and was worth over $3,000.
Oh my goodness.
Mine was a replica that was worth about $1.50 maybe. And so here's a former cop, a current county commissioner, that stole a julep cup, and they finally they turned on the cameras that were in the restaurant, and they saw him pick it up. So when Linda realized who it was her company, her station. So anyway, he came back with a fabulous story, and of course, no charges were filed. But to this day, until the day he passed, it was one of the times he said, for a former cop to steal a julep cup worth $3,000, that's grand theft larceny. He said, I could have been in for it. But that was those are the kind of things that he would fall into, and it would make me shocking at first, but it would be a great laugh. So thank you allowing me for saying that story, for telling that story. But that was typical Ronnie, and thank you for putting that picture up. That is exactly what he looked like when he passed.
Cool memories, and certainly we love to hear that. I did not hear him, but certainly we're having trouble with Rusty. Rusty I don't think he can hear Michael, and I don't think he can hear me. Is that correct? Shake your head, Rusty. No, Rusty cannot hear us at all, so if we can go ahead and take...
Yeah, I can't hear anybody.
Okay, so we go ahead and let's take Rusty Adam off the screen there.
I hope he doesn't have to have ear surgery.
Yeah, he's already had. He don't even get the joke because he can't hear it. And certainly, Michael, hopefully you can hear me, right?
Loud and clear, my buddy.
I guess the person that we show more videos on Talking Memphis Wrestling, it don't take a genius to figure that out. It's Jerry the King Lawler. And here's the thing. I saw a thing on YouTube, a news story that was put together, a look at part of Lawler's career, and I had never seen this video before. Michael, let's watch this. It's 2 minutes 7 seconds long, 2:07 on Talking Memphis Wrestling. First video of 2026.
That's his house in Hendersonville. That's Hendersonville Lake.
Absolutely. Old Hickory Lake in Hendersonville.
When most children were dreaming of becoming baseball players and cowboys, Jerry Lawler dreamed of becoming a professional wrestler. Here we see the evolution in photographs of Jerry the King Lawler from a rookie to champion wrestler. He went from small-time DJ to a top regional champion to the leading contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. The only belt to elude the King has been the coveted World Heavyweight title. Here we see him in action against 3 former title holders. As you can see, Lawler's style of wrestling is wide open, no holds barred attack on any opponent he faces. He maintains a level of intensity that's brought him to the top of his profession.
Referee Tommy Marlin.
Absolutely. Lawler Harley Race and referee Thomas Marlin, as you said.
I wouldn't have recognized Dory Funk. He looks, my gosh, he almost looks like
on numerous late-night talk shows. He also finds time to hobnob with prominent entertainers in the music and motion picture fields. Obviously, wrestling has made him a wealthy man, and today, when not traveling and wrestling, he lives in fashionable Hendersonville, Tennessee, with such neighbors as Johnny Cash and Barbara Mandrell, where he truly lives like a king.
All right, that is a fantastic video. Your thoughts on that, Michael St. John, and then we'll try Rusty again.
I actually remembered that, believe it or not. That was back when Nick Goulas and Roy Wolf still had the territory. And I remember that video coming out. I'm wanting to say that is Mike. The voiceover on that is
Mike Duncan?
I think it's Mike Duncan. Yes, I was going to say Mike Shields, but no, it's Mike Duncan. You're absolutely right. And but that first shot of that house, when I saw that, I remember because my ex-wife, Lisa, and I looked at buying that house when Jerry moved to Memphis. And it's the only house I've ever been into that you've heard of sunken bathtubs, had a sunken shower. You had to step down to get into the shower.
You told me, do you think you would like that or not?
No, that wasn't for me. I think it's built for a bigger person or maybe a taller person, perhaps. I don't think Jerry built that house. I don't know who he bought it from, but I don't think Jerry Lawler built that house.
And you know who he sold it to, right?
Refresh my memory.
Tojo, who never moved in it.
That's right. I remember that story. And he never moved in.
As far as I know, he never moved in. And we'll have to do a Tojo show coming up in 2026 for sure.
That was on Saunders Ferry Road, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Saunders Ferry. I think the house is gone now. Randy West is watching. Randy, if Lawler's house former house there on Saunders Ferry is no longer there, if you could write a note to us and let us know that. And I'm interested as we try Rusty again. We didn't have any trouble with the first take with Rusty or him hearing us, but then he couldn't hear a word. And by the way, I want to say hello to King of Kingsport, who says hello to us, and Gerald Jones is watching. A lot of people watching, and we appreciate. And Michael, one question from Frank: how far was the Jerry Lawler house from Johnny Cash's house?
Well, he was on Saunders Ferry Road, and the inlet from it was still technically Old Hickory Lake, but it was also Mansker Creek, and that's where he lived. To get to Johnny Cash's house, Johnny was 2 sloughs over. If you know lake talk, he was 2 sloughs over, further north. The next slough over was Governor's Cove, and that's where Indian Lake Forest was, which was where Jerry Jarrett lived. Back before he moved to the big house. And then the next cove over was where Roy Orbison and Johnny Cash and several other old country stars, Jack Green had a house out there. That was the peninsula they lived on. So he was 2 peninsulas over.
That's absolutely true, and appreciate that insight. And Rusty, I wanted to get your input on the video we just saw of a young Jerry Lawler. That was a good piece.
Yes, it was. Oh, I thought that was very cool. I can remember seeing Dory Funk Jr. I believe he was the first NWA champion that I ever remember seeing come to Memphis. And I was very impressed at the time, I remember. I remember seeing Jack Briscoe. I remember seeing Harley Race. And Terry Funk, too, obviously. Terry came to Memphis many times. Yeah, that was very cool. I enjoyed seeing it.
All right. I wanted to bring up a comment from Gerald Jones. He says, Michael, sorry for your loss. Also, Randy Hills, we lost Freezer Thompson. We, a couple of weeks ago, did cover that on the show, and I think Adam does have this graphic, and he found, rest in peace, Freezer Thompson. Freezer Thompson passed away. He had was raised around the Truman area, and I think he passed away, if memory serves me correct, in a Jonesboro nursing home. Freezer Thompson, one of my favorite people, just a super guy that did a lot of work on the classic TV5 wrestling, Michael.
Love the guy, big guy too. Had a wonderful sense of humor too. But a big guy. I always liked Freezer. I agree, and that was hard to see that he had passed. One thing I you had mentioned about Jerry Lawler and his house and the Hendersonville connection and all that is Jerry. When I watch those films and Doc, you brought this up with Harley and with Briscoe and with Funk and with both the Funks and so forth. I always had heard in the back room, in the dressing room, that one of the reasons that Jerry Lawler was not NWA world champion is that he didn't want to move to St. Louis and work out of the territory up there, and that basically Sam Munchnick kiboshed that. Have you ever heard that, Randy?
Well, I certainly, no, not specifically, but certainly two things I would say to that. Lawler, in that era, wasn't the type of wrestler that Sam Munchnick went with and the NWA committee went with as world champion. They went certainly with the classic wrestlers like Lou Thez, later on Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Briscoe. Terry Funk had great amateur credentials. Harley Race was just a tough son of a gun, and Sam Munchnick's deal was to have as world champion somebody that travels all around the world, a tough son of a gun where he can protect the title and protect himself, and if somebody tries to turn on him and do a swerve, he can take care of it. Lawler was a professional wrestler in the classic time. If Lawler got a good punch out off, he could knock out anybody. There's just no doubt about it. But so I think a couple of things. Lawler wouldn't have wanted to do that road schedule as the NWA touring champion. I don't think he would ever do it. The only reason he would do it is his ego of being the world champion. Later on, when he won the AWA World Championship, basically he traveled very, very lightly, didn't as well. John Mayor McCall is in the house. John's recuperating from health issues, and our prayers out to John McCall, Mayor McCall for sure. Talked to him on the phone the other night for sure. We're going to get into the photo of the day today, and Adam, I want to start with 5083, and it should be the picture right after the Rusty podcast picture. And if we could show that right now, and it is, I'm sorry, 5001. 5001 is that picture, and this, of course, is Jerry Lawler and the great Sam Bass. Jerry Lawler became a single star in 1974. Sam Bass became his manager a couple of years before that with the tag team of Jim White and Jerry Lawler, managed by Sam Bass. And after Jim White was fired or left or whatever the case may be, Lawler, starting in 74, went on a single journey, and the rest is history. And Sam Bass was, and always be known as the manager of Jerry the King Lawler. Sam Bass was born in 1935. Born in 1935, and certainly left this world too young at 41 years old on July 26, 76. The last card that Sam Bass was on in Memphis was in July 26 of 76. July of 26 of 76, drawing 5,500 people. The card was J.C. Dykes against Dennis Hall, Don Anderson and Don Kernodle against the Dominoes, managed by J.C. Dykes. The Dominoes, a part of the car wreck at the 169 mile marker in Dixon, Tennessee later that night that also involved Sam Bass. The next match was Charlie Cook and Cowboy Frankie Lane against the Scorpion, who I think was Don Bass and Tommy Gilbert. A great semifinal match was Hickerson and Condrey against the Fargos, Jackie and Roughhouse. And for the Southern Heavyweight Championship, it was Jerry Lawler against Harley Race, and that was July 26, 1976. And, we'll get into our comments about Sam and the value he had and how somebody said, how long, if Sam would have passed away, how long would he have been in the wrestling business? We'll talk all that stuff in a little bit. But in 1994, when I did Monday Night Memories, we did something very, very significant, and I wanted to watch that now, a video from the Monday Night Memories pre-show on March the 5th, 1994, where Sam Bass, many decades after, 2 decades after his death, we inducted him as the first member of the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is 3 minutes and 24 seconds as we watch now.
Do something. This is going to be the first induction into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And while you're out here, we're going to make it because it certainly involves Jerry the King Lawler, as I know that he would want to lobby for it, and he agrees. Can we get that picture out here and the plaque? As the first inductee into the Memphis Hall of Fame, here's a guy who was as wily when it came to managing as possibly could be. He knew about wrestling. He knew how to take care of his charges, and his charges were Jerry Lawler and Jim White. Our first inductee into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame is going to be Sam Bass. Sam left us much too early, but his memory is not forgotten, and I know you've got a lot of personal memory, Jerry.
Well, absolutely. There are a lot of, probably the majority of young people in this audience right here really only know Sam Bass from what they've heard about him in the past few weeks. And there are a lot of people, though, that are watching out there right now. And if you could get a close-up, right here on this picture that Tom's holding, as you said, this is a guy that I met in my 3rd or 4th match. I was wrestling down in Montgomery, Alabama, and he was already managing Jim White. And I knew the minute that we met that there was something special about this guy. I mean, like you said, his knowledge of wrestling, his personality, the charisma that he had, and when he asked me to be a part of that team, it was just a magic moment there, and Jim White and I and Sam Bass formed probably one of the most successful tag teams that's ever been here.
No doubt.
And I got to give Sam Bass the credit for me being where I am today. And as you know, he was killed in a car accident after Sam managed me in a match, World Championship match against Harley Race in 1976. And on the way back to Nashville, he was killed in a car accident. And for Sam to be honored as the first inductee in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame is just a great honor. And I know Sam would be tickled to death with this. His wife, Jody, lives in Sevierville, Tennessee, and I'll make sure that she gets, if you'll hang on to this, I'll get it after the show. I'll make sure that she gets this plaque and this picture. And I want to thank everybody involved. And I know Sam Bass would want to thank you, too. Let's have a round of applause for Sam.
Sam Bass, the first official inductee into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yeah, Tom, let's put this right down here if we can. It deserves a position where it'll be picked up every now and then. Jerry, we got action. We stand out here talking.
I got another surprise for you a little bit later. I want to come back, okay? I can't give you too much. I know your heart won't stand it at this late age, and so I'll come back with another surprise in a minute.
Don't leave me just 1 second. We got a Sam Bass tape that we'd like for you to take a look at. I know you want to.
All right, Sam Bass, 1935 to 1976, because he was living in Memphis at the time and saw the newspaper coverage, and also he saw the television coverage. Rusty was still living in Memphis at the time. It was a shock when Sam Bass passed away.
Oh, no kidding. I was at that, I'm pretty sure I was at that, at the show that night before he died, because I remember for sure Harley Race versus Jerry Lawler that night, fighting that night. And then we heard the next day, the fans heard the next day, because it was in all of the newspapers and on the TV stations, that there had been this accident with wrestlers involved. And honestly, so I think some people at first even thought, is this like, are the wrestlers putting us on? Is this for real or not? But then we finally realized, when so many legit news services were saying it was the real thing. So yeah, I remember it. Sam was one of the great heel managers. He always had just what Jerry Lawler needed to make his comeback or to beat somebody up. He'd hand him a chain at just the right minute, or he'd whatever it took. Sam was always there for it. And I know Jerry was close to Sam, and that certainly seemed heartfelt when he talked about Sam being inducted as the first member of the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And before we get Michael's comment on it, even though it's been a long time, this happened at the exit mile marker 169 in Dixon, Tennessee. They wrestled in Memphis, and Phil Hickerson was with Sam and the Dominoes. Phil got out, and rumor has it, and it came from Phil itself, and when he got out, he told Sam, said, slow down, and when Phil got out, he kissed the ground. Then Sam certainly then took off and headed to Asheville, and there was a truck driver stranded at a curve, and he was driving fast, Sam was, and hit that vehicle. I remember like it was yesterday, Michael, like it was yesterday. I remember probably the first cold open in the history of Memphis wrestling was in 1976. No opening theme, nothing. Lance Russell at the table by himself. And he said, we lost Sam Bass Monday night. Said Sam Bass used to come to me every Saturday morning and every Monday night and say, Lancer, ring the bell. It's time for us to separate the men from the boys. So in memory of the great Sam Bass, Lance Russell said and did ring the bell for the first time in memory of Sam Bass. Moment of silence right now as we remember not only Michael's friend that passed away, Ronnie, and also remember the great Sam Bass. A quick moment of silence as we bow our head real quick. Sad situation that took place, and want to talk to Michael about his memories of watching Sam Bass. Any personal meanings? I did know Sam Bass, and as a wrestling announcer, a ring announcer when I was a kid. But certainly he was always outside the ring, nice, and most heels weren't nice to young kids, and he was nice to me. Memories of Sam Bass, and talk about that piece that we just saw from the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, and talk about the great way Lance always knew what to say. That wasn't typical Lance Russell way of opening a wrestling show, but that wasn't a week. That wasn't a week for it to be a typical wrestling show. And I have one other story to tell, and I'll do that real quick, Michael. I'm taking up your time, but Jerry Jarrett wasn't at the following TV. Eddie Marlin was running TV. So as soon as Jerry Lawler got there, Eddie went up to him and says, Jerry, said, little man said, people, we need to keep the heat on you. People are going to have sympathy for you from Sam. Said, you need to control this match you're working and just beat the guy, beat him flat out quickly, 1, 2, 3. And Lawler had a funny face on his face, and put his hands on his face. And he said, Eddie, I'm wrestling you. And Eddie said, I know that, but that's what's best for business, and that's what we'll do. Michael, your comments on everything that we have set up you for.
Well, first of all, I've heard that story before, and that's a classic. That's what wrestling is all about. Let's be honest. That's what wrestling is all about. You mentioned the cold opening on TV, and that was the first one. There were several more to follow, though, as that sort of set a precedent when there was a loss in the wrestling family. Never had the opportunity to work with Sam. Watched him a lot. Was he originally from Alabama? I know Jerry mentioned that they met in Montgomery when he was doing a show for Bill Golden. But I want to say, was Sam, he was not from Alabama, was he not?
He was from, and I think somebody else managed him there. I think maybe Jimmy Kent, when Lawler and White first got together in Memphis, managed them for a few weeks. Maybe Sam did manage them in Alabama, but Sam was from Bo James country.
That's right, from East Tennessee.
East Tennessee, yeah.
And Bo mentioned the fact that his wife was from Sturgeonville, Tennessee, not Sevierville, which is a big difference of the two towns. But I never had the opportunity to work with Sam. But that being said, I did have an opportunity. The boys always talked about Sam. Sam was one of the wrestlers like Tojo later that when he passed became bigger in the dressing room than life. He became, I mean, there was rarely you would do a show when Lawler was involved that Sam Bass's name would not come up. But the things I always heard about Sam Bass was that he was the nicest person in the back and would help people out. I mean, if you needed, you needed a shoelace, if you needed anything, that Sam would be the first to say, "Can I help?" There's also a story that I heard, and help me out on this, Randy, that when they went to tell Sam's wife that Sam had been killed in a car wreck, she was very hesitant to believe that he had been involved, correct?
You know what? I was the kid then, and I think that I did hear that again. Randy West is watching this show today. Maybe Randy remembers I asked Randy a question earlier, and he might have turned the show off and watching something with Diane. But certainly, that's a shocking situation. We've all gone through it when we hear when it's just not expected. Right. Certainly, your situation with Ronnie, you expected it, so you had some time. It's still tough and still.
I'd said my goodbyes, so yeah.
Right.
But Rusty has family issues and have a sick family member, and they're sick. It's accidents and so many in the wrestling business, and that's the toughest, Michael.
Well, the other thing I wanted to make and make people know, and I think one of our Lucian brought this up, one of our listeners, watchers today, is that both Pepe Lopez and Frank Hester were also killed in that wreck because they were in the car with Sam. The one thing that I will always remember, and again, this is a Tojo story, the first time I was ever in Jarrett's vehicle going to Memphis on a Saturday morning, we stopped at right before that mile marker at the little convenience store at the Dixon exit. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And Tojo bought a can of beer at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, this is odd. And he opened the beer, and I remember Jerry was driving. He got over in the left-hand lane, slowed the car down. Tojo popped the beer, rolled down his window, and threw the beer out. And I looked at him. He says, "I'm giving Sam a beer."
Tojo did that with me many, many times.
So you know what I'm talking about. And boy, you talk about something that make your heart come pounding out of your chest. And the first time I was like, that was a wow moment.
Bo says Sam, as Colonel Fred White, was managing Jim White, Tiny York, and Ron Wright for East Tennessee. Sam and Jim left East Tennessee and went to Alabama, where they met Lawler. Then they came to the Tennessee territory, where they put them with Jimmy Kent. That didn't last long, and they had success in Alabama with Sam Bass. So certainly Sam Bass, may he rest in peace. And we're going to put some of the media up right now, Adam, if you can, and put the newspaper article up there. And again, I was holding up, but since Lucian made that comment, this is a newspaper article in both the Memphis Press Senator and the Memphis Commercial Appeal. On the left, you see Sam Bass. Um, at the bottom, you also see Sam. Top pictures, Jerry Lawler and Sam Bass. And I'll tell a story in a minute, but the Domino's, managed by J.C. Dykes, was Pepe Lopez and Frank Hester, and they certainly rest in peace to them, and our memories and our prayers for their families. Very good team, the Domino's, very good team. And I don't remember any time, I really don't. I don't remember any time where J.C. Dykes ever was in the wrestling business again. It just absolutely shook him up. And the other story that I wanted to say is that Jerry Lawler had called Sam Bass Monday afternoon. Jerry was in Memphis, and so he had his car, and he was going to have to take it into the shop, and he was going to ride back to Nashville with Sam Bass, but Sam didn't know that at the time, and then the Domino's didn't have another ride because they didn't get along with J.C. Dykes, and so didn't want to ride with him, and wrestling business politics, so Lawler rode back with Mike Shields in case. Lawler would have been in that car if the Domino's hadn't ridden, in the state of Memphis wrestling was in a total influx with Sam's death. Can you imagine, Michael, what the next 50 years would have been if we'd lost Jerry Lawler that night in July of 1976?
Sometimes the trips you don't take are the trips you shouldn't take.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
You know what? I've gotten off at that exit many times on I-40 going to Dixon. I have, in fact, as recently as last week, because we went to see relatives in Dixon, I think some of which are watching this evening. So I'll say hello to Deborah and Annette. And
hello, Deborah and Annette.
And they are very familiar with Memphis wrestling also because they got TV out of Nashville, which had, many of the same guys we saw. So they knew Jackie Fargo, and they knew Tojo, and they knew Jerry Lawler and all those guys. And I'm sure they knew Sam Bass also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. I think it's important for us to continue to do one of our goals, and one of our goals, people, is to educate and pay tribute to Memphis wrestling. Not only the stars that we grew up with, and especially we like to keep in people's mind, especially the newer audience here that's watching this show, people that had significance in Memphis wrestling. Probably, Michael, would you agree with this? Because that's been a long time ago. Almost this year will be 50 years. Am I right on that? If he passed away in 76?
76 to 26 would be 50 years, yes, sir.
Yep.
So a lot of our young people, unfortunately, and it's just due to age, and we certainly appreciate the young people watching today, for sure, and we'd like to educate you on Memphis wrestling. We're going to continue with some of the other pictures, and 5002, and we'll go from that. 5002, we'll try to get quickly through this. This is the Bruise Brothers, and also Fake Fabulous Ones. This is Pork Chop Cat and the Dream Machine, Troy Graham. Michael, your memories of Pork Chop and the Dream Machine?
Boy, I'll tell you, you talk about characters. These two were characters. And look at that outfit. I don't think you could buy that at a discount store right now, but the details in the, but yeah. And the great thing about it, and I think people get a better appreciation now when they watch these guys wrestle, especially Dream and Pork Chop too, for that. back in those days, they were ordinary kind of wrestlers. They weren't top of the card. They weren't bottom of the card. I mean, they were, they were part of the wrestling arena or the wrestling fixtures in the territories. But now you look back on them, you see them work compared to what works today, and you go, my God, these guys were great. And maybe they were underappreciated. And I think these two probably were underappreciated.
No doubt about it. Quick thoughts, Rusty, on Troy Graham and Pork Chop Cash.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with Michael. They were underrated. In particular, Dream Machine or Troy Graham, boy, he was terrific on the mic. He had that rap going long before rap was a thing that you could just tell Dusty Rhodes probably took part of and other people. And I was always surprised that he didn't go further, or I will say go national in the business than he did, because boy, he was terrific on the mic, I thought.
He didn't want to leave Memphis area. Real quick, Adam, remove that picture. And before you go to the next picture, the Dream Machine, graveyard digging, and Family Cry, long time weeping and Family Cry. I can knock down lightning, roll over thunder, step on the grave and make a dead man wonder. The Dream Machine, Troy Graham. Next picture is 5003. This is long time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a tough son of a gun. This is Harley Race with his young son, Justin Race, who posts a lot about his dad on Facebook all the time. Rusty, you might be friends with him. Michael is anti-Facebook. So Justin Race and Harley Race in that picture there. Next picture, I'm going to let my friend Michael said, John, voice over this one.
Don Green and the legendary Jerry the King Lawler at a very young age. Somebody asked if the goatee was inspired by Sam Bass. I think it was. I don't think Lawler wore the goatee before he met Sam Bass. I may be wrong, but I don't think he did. But look at Don Green. Don Green was a consummate wrestler and could really talk, was one of the best talkers ever in the Gulas Welch era, for sure.
For sure, the great Don Green. Any memories, Rusty, real quick, of Don Green?
Oh yeah, I remember how good a talker Don Green was as well. He'd been around Memphis for many years. He was already a veteran when Jerry Lawler came along. So it was, he kind of gave Jerry the rub by working with him a little bit. One thing I noticed about that picture, how much hair they had on their chests at that point. You don't see that, I guess, anymore in wrestling.
They all shave it off.
Yeah.
Don Green had a furniture store on 8th Avenue in Nashville. And when I first started doing commentary, Don had done commentary for Nick, as had Lynn Rossi after their wrestling days. And I got a call one day at the radio station, and my secretary, Pat, came in and said, Michael, Don Green is on the phone for you. I went, Don Green, that's a wrestler. So I picked up the phone. He said, Michael, Don Green. He said, I just want to introduce myself. He said, next time you're in Nashville, come by the store. I want to talk to you. Said, okay. So a couple of days later, I went down to the store. One of the most nicest people that you never meet somebody who ever know if they're going to be gruff, they're going to be, not at all. And he paid me a very strong compliment at first. And then he said, I really like the way you do it. He said, you sound like you're calling a football game and it's a wrestling match. He said, I love that. He said, keep doing it. And to be honest with you, I didn't buy any furniture from him, but I think looking back, I wish I would have, because he was a super guy.
That is great. The next picture is 5005, a tag team that I've heard about for many, many years. The Mighty Yankees, and we're going to get Michael and Rusty's memories. As a wrestling fan, I don't have memories. It was before my time. The guy on the left is certainly Charlie Fulton. I do have a lot of memories with my old riding partner for many, many, many years, hundreds of thousands of miles. He was the Mighty Yankee. He was Lucifer. He was the spoiler. He was the French angel. He is my friend. He is Frank Morrell. Lost track of Frank, and I really haven't got updated information. If somebody knows the status of Frank Morrell, we would love to know. Bo James, if you know the status of Frank Morrell, somebody had said maybe Bo had told me one time that he went back, he moved back to East Tennessee. He was married and had 2 sons and a daughter, and he was a great guy. Rusty, I hate to do this to you, but you're older than me. Do you have any memories of the Mighty Yankees?
Only very vaguely. That was at the beginning of my time, I will admit. And I did not realize that Frank Morrell, who I saw many times later on, I didn't realize that he had been one of the Mighty Yankees. So that was a good bit of information to pick up. And no, I have not have any idea where Frank Morrell is now either.
Now, my buddy Michael St. John, of the 3 people on air now, this doesn't happen to me much, folks. This doesn't happen to me much at all. I'm the youngest person on the air right now. The oldest person on the way is sneaking into the screen there beside the picture. Sneak in again, Michael. There it is. I love that. I love that. Michael, I'm just teasing, but did you ever see the Mighty Yankees? I would imagine you never called their matches.
I never called their matches, but yes, I did. They were managed by J.C. Dykes, and they were as rough and tough as you can. And my question was, is Charlie Fulton Bobby Fulton's father?
No.
No relation?
No.
Okay.
Bobby Fulton's real name is not even Fulton. It's
okay.
Hines.
All right.
It's James Hines.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask, I've never met Charlie Fulton that I remember, but I do remember Frank Morrell, mostly as a referee. I think he worked a couple of times while I did the calls. But Frank was, and he was a damn good referee. But I always liked Frank. Frank in the back was just always, and back in the day. Back when you had the dressing room on one side of the arena and the other one on the other side of the arena, the referees would walk between the dressing rooms, and people always thought, well, they were getting the information on the wrestlers that were coming, doing the weigh-in, whatever. And in reality, they were taking the finishes back.
Right.
And Frank was always. There was one time that he was getting a lot of heat when I first started in Nashville. He was getting a lot of heat from the crowd and it was a big match, and the fairgrounds arena was packed and whatever. And he leaned down to me and he said, "I need you to do me a favor." And I went, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Go over to the other locker room and I forget who it was, tell him that we're going to do 10 minutes and here's what was going to happen." Blah, 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 blah. So I told him, and I walked across. Nobody thought anything. I walked back across. He said, "Did you do it?" I said, "Yeah, they got it." But he was the first one that ever stooged me off or made me smart to the fact the referees were taking the finishes back and forth. They didn't have quote unquote producers, or what do they call them now? Agents. They didn't have that back then. But a great guy, Frank Morrell, a great guy. He also would like to partake of maybe a smoke of Chesterfield, or maybe something stronger.
Maybe some wacky backy. Somebody say some about. I could tell a funny story, but not knowing the status, I don't think I will tell the story. But I got a funny, wacky, backy story about me and Frank Morrell. But we're going to move on. What do you think, Michael? Should we move on, or should I tell the story?
I think you ought to tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
Frank was too big of a figure not to tell the story. And this has been a story-oriented show. Let's tell a story.
Tell the story.
All right, folks, this is part of my past and Frank Morrell's past. We were booked in Springfield, Tennessee. I lived in Hendersonville. Frank lived in, Michael, explain to people basically for the Nashville people, when you hear them say, "Yeah, you live in the Nashville area," but you say, "I'm from LA." What does that mean?
LA? Lower Alabama.
No. If you're living in Nashville.
Lower Antioch?
Yes, you got it. That's where I got that from Frank Morrell. Anyway, we were meeting at mile marker 97. Michael, you know the geography.
Absolutely. Right there.
97.
Long Hollow Pike, just north of, you're talking about 65?
Yes, right at the Exxon there. I don't know if
Right.
it's still there.
That's
But
Long Hollow Pike, and
yeah,
that's an exit just north of Rivergate Mall.
that's where we met. And so we met there, and I was driving, and so explain to the people how long a trip we had. So we were meeting at exit 97, and we were booked in Springfield, Tennessee.
Springfield, Tennessee, probably an hour, maybe 45 minutes, not that far.
I would say 30 minutes.
You knew a shortcut.
I would say that we drove fast. Anyway, so Frank gets in the car and he's a good mood. He's fired up, and he said, "Randy," said, "I just have the best stuff that I've ever got." He said, "This damn Kentucky coal mining country pot is the best pot I've ever had." Now we're going to this town, and I'm thinking it's 30 minutes. And he said, "You want to save it for after the show, or you want to do it now?" And I said, "No, we can drive around or sit in the car when we get to the town if we smell like it." And so it was the most potent stuff that I'd ever smoked in my life. Michael St. John, Kentucky coal mining country pot is the most potent stuff that you've ever had in your life. So Frank and I get on the interstate. I am driving, and we are laughing, and we're being silly, and I'm driving, I'm keeping on driving, and I glance up, and I look at the mile marker, and we laughing and continue smoking. By the way, I need to add that in, smoking the Fernum Durnum, the Wacky Backy. We called it the Fernum Durnum. I'm looking up, look at the mile sign, the road sign. You know what it said, Michael?
Bowling Green next exit?
No, much worse. Louisville, Kentucky, 38 miles.
Oh my God. You sort of overshot the target there,
Yeah.
buddy.
I guess overshot the runway. We turned around, drove 150, still smoking the wacky backy,
That's
going
funny.
in and out of traffic, and we get there and walk in, and I tell Frank, I said, as much as possible, stay away from Eddie. Stay away from Eddie. And we had good smelling and all that, and that's probably a tip off, but not to Eddie. Eddie wouldn't have dare thought that I was smoking the wacky. But he would have thought I got a contact high from Frank, but I was higher than Frank, because Frank is certainly more of a tolerance of that than I would. And not that it was the first time I smoked the wacky backy, but it certainly wasn't. But still, we made it through it. And I just said, I got caught up at the office. Sorry about that.
Hell, you were almost in Elizabethtown if you were only 38 miles from
Oh,
Louisville.
yeah. But it was
gracious.
It was a hell of a trip. And I told Frank on the way back as we passed Bowling Green, we were still hiring the guide. I said, "Frank, help me watch, or we'll do it again. We'll probably end up in Birmingham." That wouldn't have surprised me at all. So how was that story, guys?
That was
That was
better
good.
than mine. Better than mine. That was a great story.
Do you think this is the most unique Talking Memphis Wrestling? We certainly, our goal is to say stuff that's never said before, probably get heat here. And we'll go to the next picture, and this story certainly goes into our theme of the show. It's 5006, and we'll show that picture. When Grass passed away in 1976, shortly thereafter, Lawler decided that he was going to become a manager. He would still be the top heel, but he would manage all the top heels. So out of 8 matches on the card, he'd be out there 7 times. He would manage Porkchop Cash, and he would manage Gorgeous George, and he would manage all kinds of people. And that's a great picture of General Jerry Lawler. Michael, what do you remember about General Jerry Lawler?
I remember this era, and he was still doing it a bit when I started in '77 with Nick. He still had that outfit, and he went to the Army surplus store in Memphis. I remember him telling the story, and he bought all those ribbons and bought that outfit, and then he had that helmet, and he added the stars to it. I mean, that was not a general's helmet. But Lawler could pull anything off. Still can, but could really back in the day.
Sure, it was a general's helmet. Can't you tell? 4 stars, and it's General Lawler. General Lawler, 4 stars, and that's a great picture.
The name tag is terrific. King.
Yes. 5007 is our next graphic, and this is Michael St. John.
Oh boy, Big Bad John, and he's wearing a Superstar Bill Dundee shirt. You know, one of our listeners mentioned the fact that, and I hadn't thought about this until he said it, the Doc looks a little bit like Bill Dundee. Maybe he's different mothers, but same brothers. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe has some Australian relatives. I don't know.
Doc is about around 10 years, no longer than that, because Bill's 82. So he's got you by a few years, Doc.
Yeah, he's got me by 15 years.
Where did he get that shirt, that outfit? That's hilarious. I've never seen that before. That's hilarious.
I had never seen it before it just popped up. A great picture, and here to explain and maybe to be stumped a little bit, I don't know, but we're going to go ahead and put 5008 up there. Michael St. John, who is this?
Jeez. That's a good one. I have no clue.
Right? Nor do I. No, I had no idea.
Well, I'll tell you what he wrestled as in that mask, and then you'll tell me who it is, Michael. This is a Green Shadow.
Pat Malone.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I just over the holidays, and I had a little time. I'm an avid reader, by the way. Anybody that ever wants to send me something to read, send it on, because I'm going to read it. I read everything. My dad was in the newspaper business for 43 years. I read everything, including the New York Post every day. But I just read Jimmy Cornette put out a book called Heroes and something else. And he's got a whole chapter on Pat Malone. And I think it's the best chapter in the book, without a doubt. And I got to know Pat. He was in the locker room quite a bit when I first started out in Nashville, and he would be back there. He was never a referee in the time that I did, but he'd always be back there with the boys, and everybody you talk about the consummate respect. The 2 people that ever entered the locker room that people would stop what they're doing and pay their homage to was Jackie Fargo and Pat Malone. And I didn't know the whole history of the Pat Malone thing until really over the past, probably 30 years ago, I found out about it. But Pat Malone was to wrestling in Nashville, Memphis, in the Mid-South in his day, in the 40s and 50s, that Jerry Lawler became. I mean, he was as big as Jerry Lawler, and was a heel, and just sold tickets and sold arenas out. I mean, some great stories. If you got Cornette's book, or you got a chance, I won't give Jimmy a free plug here, but if you got a chance, it's a Heroes and Friends, I think it's called. But it's a good book.
Now, where did you get the book?
Jimmy sent it to me.
I'm mad at him because he wrote me an email 3 weeks ago or 4, and I don't check my mail because it's the other side of the complex, so it might still be here.
Well, let me tell you, I saw the label, and there was a name scratched out, and I think the name scratched out was Randy Hales.
There you go.
That would be like Cornette, would it not?
This show is over. Go to break. No. Hey, real quick, I want to get caught up. I'm ribbon. Uh, so Tracy Vincent says, "Hey guys, Happy New Year from Night Driver." Jerry Lawler took picture with my son, old fairground. He was just a great person. Son now 32 and still has that picture. Uh, Bo James says Sam as Colonel Fred White was managing Jim White in East Tennessee, and I think that we had talked about that earlier, and we're looking at some of the pictures. One of the comments. Bo says the East Tennessee boys took Sam's death real hard. We're continuing. I've messed up on. I'm missing. Yeah. Bo, text me right away, and I won't broadcast it. A lot of people watching, and I appreciate it very much. It's so great to be back with this show today, and we saw Frank Morrell there, and we'll go to picture number 5009. This is the crazy wild guy from Amarillo, Terry Funk. We'll look at picture 5010, 5011. 5010, 5011. I think that's a young Jerry Lawler with Santa Claus. 5011, as we'll look at that picture again. This is Kevin and Brian Lawler with Fargo, and Fargo played by none other than the fabulous Jackie Fargo. The next picture is 5012. This is Big Phil Henderson and the fabulous Jackie Fargo. Next picture is 5013. It's remembering Roy Welch, and Roy Welch is somebody that was the total opposite of Nick Goulas, who wanted to be the center of attention. And I heard Jim Cornette talk on his podcast recently that Roy Welch would never leave the dressing room, and Nick Goulas would be front and center at the door, cussing out the fans. Memories of Roy Welch and Nick Goulas, Mr. St. John.
I never met Roy when I first started working for Nick. Roy was in the nursing home, but I did just have, in fact, I had an interview yesterday. A radio friend of mine that we worked together in Zimmer Broadcasting back in the 90s, Tony Richards, has a podcast thing that he does with Jerry Briscoe and I think John Layfield, and they have just finished a 4-part. In fact, the blow off is next week when they drop it on Roy Welch, and he did they're going to have Ron Fuller on, but they did a whole literal history of Roy Welch, and he sent me. I'd listened to a couple of things he sent me. And I didn't realize how big Roy was when the NWA first started. Roy had the hottest territory there was. And it was Memphis and Mississippi, Arkansas. He had the Boot Hill of Missouri. He had part of Kentucky, and of course Nashville, Birmingham. And he was on top, and I didn't realize that Roy was as big of a star, quote unquote. He was the promoter, and he was on top of his territory, and had a lot of wrestling matches with the Green Shadow, who we just had up here. So Roy Welch's legacy is much. I've gotten to learn a deeper dive, much bigger than I ever imagined it being. Because again, when I started, Nick was the face. I always thought Roy put a lot of the wrestling history into it, but Nick was the face of the place. And like you said, Randy, I think, and I think you're absolutely right. Roy was the behind the curtain guy, and Nick was the guy that was the barker in front of the three-ring circus.
All right. So Adam gave me comments. Am I still fuzzy? Out of focus?
Yes, sir.
Let me do it again. Do a white balance.
You're all fuzzy to me, but I don't think it's your camera.
I think it was that wacky tobacco. It's a flashback to when him and Frank Morrell were riding in that car.
I hadn't done that in 2024. I don't know why. Usually when I do the white balance, that helps. I'll do the thing with the hand. This is live television, and
Better. There you go. Got it.
got it for sure. Next picture.
I'll tell a quick story about Roy Welch.
Okay.
My father sold him life insurance. So my father was an insurance salesman in West Tennessee, including the Dyersburg area, which was near where the Welch, I don't know whether it was a ranch or a farm or something. And so he did, in fact, meet Roy Welch. I remember him kind of saying Roy Welch was the guy in charge of wrestling. Like Roy was the senior partner, and Nick, while he was the voice or the face of it, Roy was the connection to the NWA. Roy was he was calling the shots, at least at first. He was the senior guy.
Just for the record, the Welch brothers were, and I want to say in order, Roy, Herb, Lester, Jack, and was there a fifth one?
Jack. Did you say Lester?
Yeah, I said Roy was the oldest brother, Herb, Lester, Jack, and I forget because Jack was the promoter here in Huntsville. So that's how I know him. But because when I was a kid, I remember Roy Welch once at the National Guard Armory on Patton Street in Huntsville, Alabama, on a Friday night. I was with my Uncle John, and Roy Welch was here, and it was a big deal because Jack's, Roy Welch is here. Roy Welch is here, and I remember people stopping in their tracks because Roy was in the building. So that, and I was 10 years old at the time.
That's a big deal. Next picture is 5017. This is a newspaper clip from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am going to watch. Oh, no, that is not it. That's Terry Gordy and beautiful Bobby Eaton. That is an old picture there, and I missed that on my notes.
I think that's Chattanooga TV. I believe, Randy, that's Chattanooga TV there, if I remember that studio correctly.
Okay, next picture. This is the
Fabulous Ones. Oh, they were so
fairly
good.
current version. Next picture is Tojo Yamamoto and beautiful Bobby.
That's actually Harley.
That looks like Harley.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes and not that. That is Harley Race. So I got my notes out of order, so I will not look at my notes. Well, that is the first win, because that's the old Dory Funk Jr. belt that's Harley wearing there. Next picture. That's Bobby Eaton and Tojo Yamamoto. And where is that, Michael?
That's Channel 12 in Chattanooga. They had the biggest studio of all of them, and that's Harry Thornton back there at the desk, and that is Bobby and Tojo.
Very interesting. Next picture on Talking Memphis Wrestling on the first show. Now, Michael St. John, I want you to read this Chattanooga from December 22nd, 1973. Start at the top, go all the way down, and then the last paragraph of the deal, finish up with that, and then memories of that, as this is something that me and Rusty, I've heard about it my whole life almost, but Michael, just read this.
All right, this was December. This was over the holidays in 1973, my senior year in college. Saturday night Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Later changed to the City Auditorium. Mid-American Tag Team match on the line. The interns with manager Ken Ramey, the champions, putting the belt on the line against Don Green and Bearcat Brown. It was ruled a no contest. The Mighty Yankees with manager George the Blimp Harris defeated Eddie Marlin and Tommy Gilbert in 2 out of 3 falls. Boy, that was a team, Marlin and Gilbert. We need to do a show about them one of these days, Randy. That was a team that when you watch them today, they were underappreciated back then. Sylvia Hackney in a big girls match defeated Peggy Patterson. Dennis Hall, who was living in Chattanooga at the time, and Johnny Marlin fought to a draw with Jerry the King Lawler and Sam Bass, who was subbing in for the Scorpion, who was probably Frank Morrell at the time.
Don Bass.
Oh, was it Don Bass?
Or Don Duffy, one or the other.
Gotcha. And then Jesse James beat Buddy Wayne, or Buddy Wayne Peel, later known, who was subbing in for Terry Sawyer. Earlier in the day on Live Wrestling at Channel 12 WDEF television in Chattanooga, Don Green's daughter, Donna Green, was slapped by the intern number 1 as she was being interviewed by Harry Thornton.
And let's come back to Michael, because again, Michael from the Chattanooga area, not too far away from the Chattanooga area anyway, hosted Chattanooga Wrestling in 1983, I believe was the case. What do you remember about the interns slapping Donna Green?
Well, that was part of the angle, of course, and she was being interviewed, and I think it was a babyface kind of interview where she was there with her dad, and Harry brought her. Harry was one of these homespun kind of announcers, so he could pull those off all day. He did it on his live morning show. So he was putting, and then the interns came in and interrupted, and then he smacked her, and then all hell broke loose. But Chattanooga and that studio, that was a big studio, which was also their news set, and it was bigger than Memphis, believe it or not.
I believe it. Next picture on talking Memphis Wrestling.
Lorenzo Parenti. No, I'm sorry. That is Sylvia's dad. He's one of the Corsica Joe.
Corsica Joe, Sarah Lee's husband.
Yes.
Wow.
And Sarah Lee, she, bless her heart, what a fabulous woman, great wrestler. My God, the first time I ever saw her in action, it was like, holy cow, this woman is amazing. Sarah Lee, I always ask, one of the first things when I met her, I said, I have to ask you this. And she said, don't ask, I know what you're going to say. She said, no, I was not named after a pastry. And, because that was at the time, I think that was, you go the dairy case and, nobody doesn't like, everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee was the advertising thing. But no, that was her. In fact, I think that was her real name. I think Sarah Lee, last name was her real name.
Very, very interesting stuff and a lot of fun stuff here. And we're going to finish up the picture segment here, and then if Adam has anything I don't know about, and this comes from Jerry Lawler's art collection, and we'll go ahead and all those pictures, just go through that, Adam, the last few pictures. That's beautiful. I think that is Lawler drawing his dad. I'm not 100% sure about that at all. Next picture. Again, we're showing that, so that's all the pictures that we have on Talking Memphis Wrestling, and we will conclude this program today. We have more conversation coming up, but let me put the ground rules for this. Adam, have this videotape that I'm going to pitch to, and we're going to show. Your hand your ears need to listen to me, because we're looking for once they go to a one shot of Pablo Frazier and Lawler leads him into it, we need to mute the audio. Very important. Mute the audio. I tell you, when it goes back to a 3-shot, we're safe to do that. This video, a great 70s promo. Let's all listen to Jerry Lawler from the Channel 13 studios, 2 minutes, 41 seconds on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Here he comes, Jerry the King Lawler, manager Sam Bass, and they've got their new partner with them, Plowboy Frazier. Jerry, Sam.
How you doing today, Dave?
Well, we're doing all right so far.
I want you to realize that this is one of the premier days in my career so far. Do you realize what is about to happen today?
No.
Have you told the people about what kind of match I'm fixing to be in?
You're going to be in a championship match against Tommy Rich.
After last week, wait a minute, Frazier. Oh, okay. Don't mind him. Don't mind him. After all the little things, after all the trinkets and things that I bought him and all the favors I've done for him, he he's asked me time and time again if there isn't something he could do for me, and this. Thank you, Frazier. Thank you very much. And to him, this is. Let me cut it. Yeah, go ahead. And you better eat it because to him this is a big deal. So just, you know,
Okay.
They're talking about the trash now, ain't we, baby? You're looking at the garbage bin. We're going to eliminate the trash in professional wrestling. There's a lot of trash running around here like Big John, Bearcat Brown, things like that. And Michalowicz fast falling right into the category of trash. And garbage men eliminate trash, and that's what we're going to do. You know, you remember a few years ago when you had a little trash problem down in
Mute
Philadelphia?
immediately. Mute. Okay. Stand by for my cue. This would not then or will not ever be. Unmute.
And you're looking right now, ladies and
Not
gentlemen,
politically
at your
correct,
new
perhaps?
Southern heavyweight champion. Now, wait a minute.
That's the understatement.
Let's see you take a bite of that watermelon. Just
I'm not sure.
go ahead, Dave. And I want to say before how is the watermelon? It's great, isn't it, baby?
I don't trust it, but it's pretty good.
Strictly to get Lawler. I tell you,
Ron Michalowicz from the Memphis Showboats, right,
But I
Rusty?
tell you, there's just
Yes.
something about him that makes
He
me
had
hot.
played in the
I can
NFL
play
for a
whole
number of
football
years
game,
before he got signed by
probably
the
lose my
Showboats.
temper, get hit or get hurt, and not get half as hot as I do with 1 minute with this guy. Just don't know about him.
There is something about the guy that makes you react that way. He's somebody. Lawler with a can of water to come in here.
All right. Talking Memphis wrestling. Great show today. First of all, I know the answer from Rusty, so I'll let him comment second. I'll let Michael comment first. Michael, were you ever a part? I would say the answer would be no. But were you ever on the Channel 13 wrestling show?
No, but I remember him, and I remember Ron Michalowicz, and he couldn't wrestle worth a flip. He was a much better football player than he ever was a wrestler.
They drew money though with him.
Because it was, of course, you got a local guy. He's a football guy versus Lawler, and Lawler was a heel, and I could see that drawing big money.
Big money. Lawler drew money with Mike Stark. Rusty, you know who Mike Stark is?
Yeah, Mike Stark was a football player at Memphis State who went on to be the strength and conditioning coach there and some other places too. And he was came on, I can't remember whether it was on Channel 13 or Channel 5.
Channel 13.
Was it? Okay. He came on and he was going to be a wrestler, and Lawler challenged him, and it was great. You know, Lawler set him up just perfectly. You could tell Mike was he was a little stiff, he was a little nervous, and Lawler just set it up, beautifully.
Because Lawler is absolutely great. All right, now we started with the first take. We're down to the last take. This will be our early show, which is good. I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure Michael has all kinds of stuff. I hadn't talked to Michael about the fact that the University of Alabama is not in the playoffs anymore. That didn't happen. And Rusty, what a great season Tulane had this year, and obviously they were put out and they're not in the playoffs. So how's your enthusiasm? 2 questions. First of all, your enthusiasm level and your prediction for who's going to be the national champion in football this year. If that Ole Miss Lane Kiffin guy, he's gone and he's out, he's sitting home, how is Ole Miss going to do without him? Your thoughts there, and then your final take of the show.
Yes, we were very excited about Tulane's season this year. Disappointed to lose Coach Summerall to the University of Florida, but we're looking forward to next year. So, overall, you have to say it was a good thing. And having Coach Summerall was a good thing, even though we lost him. And I think any Tulane fan has to be pulling for Ole Miss to go all the way, because that makes Tulane look better if they lost to the eventual national champion. So I'm going to predict Ole Miss wins it all. Final take. I learned a lot from this show. I'm trying to remember everything Frank Morrell. I hadn't thought of him in a long time. I didn't realize he had been one of the mighty Yankees. Oh gosh, I can't remember now what all else. But I appreciate the opportunity to be back with you all and hope we can do it again sometime.
All right, Doc, so great to have you. Appreciate Adam Dunn. Adam, do you want to say hello to people for the first time in 2026? I guess that's a no because he didn't have his camera on. So that tells me that his camera is off. And now we will talk football with Michael St. John and have the first day of Michael St. John as we're in our last segment. We're rounding third. We're going home, Michael.
Rounding third and headed for home. Hey, first of all, Coach Summerall, Doc, is from Huntsville. I know his dad. I actually called a football game that he played in when Grissom High School back in the early 2000, 1999, 2000 maybe. John, in fact, Ronnie Shoemate and I called the game of John. Very bright guy. Grissom High School, more of the higher echelon in the south end of Huntsville. Great player, of course, went on for a good college career and is making one hell of a coach. So Tulane's a loss. I just pray that the new guy is able to do what Coach Summerall was started and got going, because Coach Summerall did a great job. And let me add to that, I mean, I don't have any Tulane gear, and I'd really love a sweatshirt, and I love the green and the blue and just a plain old Tulane. If you find me one, I'm a medium and I'll pay you for it. All right, so that's that. Football-wise, Alabama, of course, got beat. We weren't expecting them to win. I'm not big on this coach at all. And they go out to the Rose Bowl in Indiana, embarrassed. And it was a rainy day. I was talking to a friend of mine that went out there, said it was miserable. Well, of course, they lost, so it was miserable. My prediction, the two games this week, by the way, one of them is Thursday night and one of them is Friday night, because the pros start their playoffs Saturday, Sunday on ESPN. So the game in Atlanta, in my opinion, should have been in Phoenix, because it's Oregon, and they're playing. Oregon is playing Indiana, I think it is. Oregon and Indiana in a rematch. But instead of it being Phoenix, which is closer to Oregon and probably not that much further than, Indiana's a little further off. But anyway, that to me should be the Fiesta Bowl. Ole Miss is in Phoenix to play Miami. Well, heck, if they were in Atlanta, I mean, Miami to Atlanta and Oxford to Atlanta, about the same distance. And I'm sure but I understand you can buy tickets. I was talking to a friend of mine today. You can get tickets to Friday night's game between Miami and Ole Miss today online for less than $100, supposedly. So that's him. My prediction is I think Miami is playing the best football in college football right now. I think they're on fire. They beat Ohio State. They look good. They beat Texas A&M. They look good. I got to say, I'm going with Miami to win it all. But I think the championship game ends up being Indiana, Miami, in Miami on, I think it's January 17th, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the 19th. But anyway, I think that'll be the payoff.
Rusty, your prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little against Michael here. I'm going to predict that Ole Miss is going to win their game, and they therefore will face Indiana in the national championship game, and it will be close, but Ole Miss will pull it out 37-32.
Oh, one quick final football take and keep the answers brief. All this bullshit going on in college football and NIL money and all the stuff going on, and you will never see anymore a player come and play thing. Coaches leaving when they still have games to play, players leaving, all that stuff. The way football is now, college football has there ever in college football been such a mess as it is right now with the transfer portal? And they can just leave their team before you have your bowl game. Quit on the team, and it's encouraged. How screwed up is that, Rusty?
Oh, it's awful. I mean, I absolutely agree. Tulane lost 20 players off this year's team to the portal. I saw Memphis State, or University of Memphis, lost 44 players out of their 80 odd, scholarship players to the portal this year.
And that coach is going to Arkansas.
Yeah. Oh, he took several of the Memphis players with him. But anyway, what that means is every year is completely different. You may as well be truly a professional team. They actually have it better because they get to sign guys to contracts for at least a few years at a time. We're having to deal with a new set of players every single year, which is nutty. And the coaches, same deal. John Summerall, I have to say, he handled it about as well as you can handle it, in that he said how much he hated it, that he had to make the decision to go to Florida before Tulane played in its playoff game. And I think he was sincere about that. That's just, it's awful. I think they're threatening to kill the golden goose.
Absolutely. Now, we used to do a Randy's rant. If we don't get a rant out of Michael St. John, I will be thoroughly devastated. College football these days.
Well, first of all, let's go back to a year ago, August. I made the comment on this very show and called it professional college football. There's no such thing as college football anymore. It's PCF. It's professional college football. That's number one. It's the Wild Wild West. It's a dumpster fire. Nobody's in control. The inmates are running the asylum. It's absolutely stupid that you can take a 17-year-old kid out of any neighborhood in America and they're making $3 million not to go to college, to play for college. They don't ever go to school. It has nothing to do with education. So I don't see the point. I think the NFL, in my opinion, has had a free ride for 60 years on getting players ready to play at that level of football. The NFL has had for 60 years a free ride. That's what has trickled down to what this college game's about. Coaches don't recruit anymore. They talk to street agents. And I can go back 20 years when my son was at Florida State in the mid-aughts of this year, and him telling me about street agents, and I thought he was lying. And now that's all it is. You get a kid, if he's in a bad neighborhood, he may get a parent or somebody with a little means to take him in, groom him, because they know they're going to make millions when the kid goes to college. He doesn't have to go pro. He's going to make $3 million in college. I think it is asinine. I think it is stupid. I think it is destroyed. College football isn't dead. It's dead, buried, and over. And if you looked at something, and I want you to think about this, and thank you for the rant, Randy, by the way. I appreciate the time for the rant. Of the bowl games you watched on TV, how many stadiums did you see packed?
None.
And I'll tell you how many. There so far have been, for the first 4 games of the playoffs, they were not even sold out. Even the games on campus, Texas A&M was not sold out. There were several games in that first round weren't sold out on campus. None of the bowl games sold out. Right. You could get Sugar Bowl tickets, you could get Orange Bowl tickets, you could get Rose Bowl tickets day of the game at bargain prices. So people are already shunning it. I think the playoff is a good thing, but I think paying the players is an awful thing. And I think what needs to happen now is the NFL needs to open up a minor league professional football, and maybe this is something The Rock does with the XFL. Who knows? I think that might be a great proving ground. It becomes the minor league for the pros. These kids don't want to go to college. They don't want to play for Alabama or Memphis or Tulane or Vanderbilt or anybody else. They want the money. So have a minor league football season, 12 games, however many games you want to do, dress it up, dress up a monkey like a baby doll and sell it. But let that be, and let's turn college football back to being an amateur sport where collegiate students play for their school and play for 4 years. Because right now, hey, Pandora's box has not only been opened, it's been blown to smithereens. And I think if they don't, and I hate to say it because I don't like government intervention, but I hate to say it, but if the federal government and state governments don't get a wraparound on this thing, by 2030, college football as we know it will not be the number one spectator sport in America. It'll be college soccer. It's coming.
Strong comments from Michael St. John. Well, the first show since our return, this is the first show of 2026. Hopefully, Pat Trammell, who is going to a high school basketball game tonight, probably there working his scorebook and all that, probably trying to cheat somebody. I don't know.
He's in charge of the NIL for that school, by the way.
Okay. He's in charge of the NIL for me, that's for sure. Anyway, Adam Dunn did a great job being Adam Dunn, and I appreciate it. I was in West Memphis the other day, and Adam was in Memphis, and in a part that I didn't have time or the desire to go to, but this is the first holiday in a long time that I haven't seen Adam Dunn. Didn't see him Thanksgiving either. So this Thanksgiving and this Christmas, I think he spent Christmas with Kevin Lawler. Anyway, folks, lots going on. We have a big, huge, always, we got big stuff going 2026. Hope everybody's doing good. And I want to finish. This might make it blurry. I'll be back. Y'all stay here. Michael, talk for a minute before I go.
My heart, Doc, I think I'm made my heart rate raise about 20 beats a minute after that rant. I'm telling you.
You may have to go take your medication, Michael.
My wife was always accusing me of being off my medication, so it's just. But let me tell you. Let me say first of all, while Randy steps out for a second, I want to thank the folks that are tuned back in here. We've had some great comments. We didn't always refer to them, but we've had some great comments, and thank you for all the folks that are watching and so connected to this show. We really appreciate it. And of course, Adam Dunn, Frank, you did it. Adam, thank you for the wonderful job you did. But I want to give kudos to the person I think needs kudos, and that's a guy named Randy Hales, because it is his passion and his love and his devotion to professional wrestling. I've said it for the 4 years I've been back on this show, and I'm going to say it again. There's a booker inside of that man right now that is worth $1 million. I just wish one of the big boys would hire him, because he's that damn good. But I want to thank him and the job you do, Randy, not only when you're doing this show, but the time you take and the knowledge that you bring and the format that you bring to this show that we blow out of the hell out of the water because we don't get to all of it. But what you do.
Tonight.
Did we? Well, I just want to say what you do today, I think people that are watching and listening to this program will understand that's what Randy did back in the day when I had the opportunity and the pleasure, the honor to work with him at TV, doing TV shows and the wrestling shows. The man's a genius, and I'm giving him credit for it. And Randy, you are the king of bookers. I don't care what Jimmy Cornette says.
Now, our medical expert here is Dr. Rusty Robinson. I realize that. Michael St. John has had more health problems than me, so he's more of an expert than me. I'm going to do a mini rant or just something that confuses me. Then a brief response from Rusty from my mini rant that I've already done to him off the air. Then Michael's going to try to explain it to me and see if he can make sense of it, and then I'm going to close the show. Folks, I have issues. Everybody knows that. I've been hitting in the head with chairs and all kinds of stuff, but medically, you know, a year and a half ago, something like that, I had a tumor on my back, had surgery at the University of Arkansas Medical UAMS, and that's taken care of. I have high blood pressure that I'm medicated about, and I, for 2 years, have been a diabetic. Well, the doctor had me on metformin, and that's metformin, Yeah, and
Bad stuff.
that's what I took. Well, this last appointment, which was several weeks ago, he took me off of that and said, he's caused problems, blah, blah, blah. He said, we'll take you up. And he, let's see if I can, I don't know if you can read this. He gave me this pill there, and I will, Rusty, help me. It's called RYBELSUS.
Rybelsus.
Rybelsus?
Yeah, Rybelsus.
So that's what he talked.
Yeah,
So
there's 2 or 3 different substitutes for metformin now, and that's one of them.
So he advised me to do that immediately, and he sent in the prescription. I go to the pharmacy and I go to Kroger's. So I said, "Do you have my medicine ready for Randy Hales?" They said yes. Well, you do, and you're not going to like it. I said, "What's wrong with the medicine?" He said, "Nothing's wrong with the medicine. It's great." But he said, insurance won't cover it. He said, you owe $1,000.
Oh.
And I said, I don't need it. I don't want it. And he said, well, maybe you can call your doctor and maybe we can get the doctor to plead your case, something like that. So doctor says continue to take metformin. So I did for 2 days, and the doctor sent me an email and said we got it taken care of. You can go pick up your medicine. Now it was going to be $1,000. Michael, when I went to pick it up, you know how much it ended up costing me?
Well, if you had a copay, I would say about $10 to $15.
12. And I had a copay about $1,000 too. That was what it was going to be, $1,000. Rusty, explain that to me.
There is no explanation for it. You know, I've said many times the American medical system is broken badly. In fact, I've commented on it on my podcast a number of times, and will do so again in the future. And it's not any one thing. It's not just that the pharmaceutical companies want to make money. The federal government is heavily involved in it. You know, to some degree, there's some guilt on the part of the physicians. Certainly, the hospital industry has a fair amount of the guilt. So there's guilt to go around to everybody. I'm afraid it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it's going to take basically a complete shakeup or falling apart of our health system as it currently exists before it gets better. When that's going to happen is anybody's guess. We keep thinking it gets closer, and then something happens to put it back on the back burner. You know, we thought it was getting close a few years ago when they started talking about restructuring the payment system to make it more about value and about physician expense than it is right now. And then that got put on the back burner politically. So when anything is going to change, you know, your guess is no better than mine or anybody else's. But like I said, I suspect it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Michael, do you feel my pain?
Absolutely.
My confusion?
Absolutely. And Doc, and I'm going to say this, and I really think this is true. The only time it gets talked about is when a situation like Randy's comes up. And after that, it gets buried. It gets pushed under the rug. And you're right, it's political. It has to do with big pharma. It has to do with hospitals that are I would love to talk with you just off the air sometime. What in the hell is going on with the hospital industry? Because all of the big hospitals are getting gargantuan, are getting huge, and the little guys are selling out because the money's there. So, and that's changing the world of hospital care. And I am lucky, and I know a few physicians, and you're one I would definitely trust without a doubt. You've got a great reputation, by the way. Let's go ahead and get that out in the open. I don't think we've ever said that on the show. Doc, Rusty has a great reputation.
He retired.
You know, he got so much money out of Big Pharma, he retired. But but what I'm saying is the whole industry, like you said, there's got to be a cataclysmic change. And like you said, government's involved because every state legislator, every national legislator, every congressman, every senator gets that money for that reelection campaign. And a lot of it is, I'm not going to say drug money illegally, but is legal, big pharma, hospitals, whatever they call it. But hospitals right now, the Ascension Network, Ascension St. Thomas in Nashville is exploding. Huntsville Hospital here in Alabama now has 42 local hospitals. 42. St. Vincent's in Birmingham, where my son was born, UAB has now, it's UAB and UAB St. Vincent's and Huntsville Hospital, and then there's another one, Ascension something else down in Mobile. They're covering the state. And I think it's going to, the trickle-down effect is going to affect patients. And you're right, Doc. And as for you, Randy, I feel that pain. I, too, am diabetic. I'm lucky. Dr. Youngblood ran a whole big series on me. I take one shot in fact, I'll take it tomorrow night. And I forget the name of it. But anyway, the first time I went to get it, 2.5 milligrams in a pen, an EpiPen, $562 for 4 of them. Yeah. For 4 of them. And I'm telling you, and I don't know where it's going, but I will say this. When Ronnie got sick and they found out it was cancer, we started doing a little investigating. The 5 hospitals you want to go to in a traumatic cancer situation that I came up, or that I found out, were in this order. Were Anderson in MD Anderson in Houston, Mayo in Jacksonville, Moffitt in Tampa, Vanderbilt and the Cleveland Clinic, and within a 500-mile range of here. And that was just for his situation. But I think the whole, we ought to do a show one day on healthcare, because we got an expert here and a damn good doctor on our screen right now. But I think something's got to give, guys. Something's got to give.
Now, Rusty, do you ever feel this way? You got out when the getting was good?
Yeah, certainly in a sense. Because the whole thing has impacted our trainees as well. If you're getting into medicine right now, you're going to have a very different experience from what I had, 40 years ago when I first started. The old charity hospital, those places are no more. They're owned by, as Michael said, the big corporations. Private equity has come in and bought up, are invested in all of those hospitals, and you didn't mention this, Michael, they have bought up local doctors' practices to integrate into those systems, so they make them completely integrated, so they can't separate each other, and you can't argue with them at that point when there's no other alternative. Man, this show is about wrestling, but we're all three of our, by the way, earlier we're talking about different things. Michael, just to know that Rusty's been very successful. The person in his family that's in charge of his money is not Rusty. It's Mrs. Robinson. Am I correct? That is correct.
Your wife needs to, right? Your wife doesn't need to talk to mine, because mine's in charge of it too. And I want to tell you right now, it's after Christmas. I'm going to pull out the wallet. It's a fat wallet. It ain't got nothing in it. And let me tell you, this is what I got to live on. This is what I got to live on until Friday. That's a 10 and a 1. That's what it was 15 at the start of the day. But that's what I got to live. And she absconded the credit card too. It's gone. She says, if it's out of your wallet, you ain't using it. So God forbid that your wife ever meets mine, because all hell will break loose on our part.
No, I know very well. She called or texted me 3 or 4 times today. She's in Orange Beach while I'm in New Orleans today. Did you charge this on the credit card? Did you charge that? Did you pay this on PayPal? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Randy, this has been a great show. I'm sorry. I've enjoyed the hell out of this. You guys, I'm telling you.
It's not the typical Talking Memphis Wrestling. Maybe I refreshed a little bit by taking off 2 weeks. I felt refreshed. And y'all did too.
Well, let me tell you this. It's still about wrestling, but we're wrestling with the problems of football. We're wrestling with the problems of the medical profession. We're wrestling with our own problems. So, folks, it's still a wrestling show.
I was done with content at 8:28. Thought I'm going to bed early tonight, and now we've about got it through our 2 hours for my friends, Dr. Rusty Robinson, award-winning producer Adam Dunn, that makes this show go, and for the great, legendary Michael St. John. This is Randy Hill saying, in the words of Lance Russell, bye-bye, everybody.